Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Anna Manuel. Timothy Lohman, the officer who shot and killed 12-year-old Tamir Rice in 2014, has resigned from a Pennsylvania department. Lohman was sworn in for the position just earlier this week. The Bureau of Tioga in Pennsylvania has a one-man police department. Protesters filled the small borough's streets after Lohman was announced as the officer who would be filling that position. According to the city's website, Lohman resigned this morning. A water main break in downtown Elmira closed off a major section of Clemens Center Parkway this morning. Both lanes of the parkway between East 2nd Street and Washington Avenue were closed off. The Elmira Water Board and Chemung County Sewer Districts were on scene this morning. Water Board General Manager Mark Ledouce told Big Fox that the main break was an isolated incident. Ledouce said the pipe that broke was one from the 1800s, and the heavily traveled road could have contributed to it bursting. The line is expected to be completely repaired by Friday morning. A new fire marshal has been appointed by the Elmira Fire Department. Andrew Mallow has been appointed to that position. He's set to begin his new duties as fire marshal, effective immediately. Mallow replaces Richard Keys, who retired on June 20th and served the community for 28 years. The Horseheads Historical Museum has added a new exhibit featuring local artists. We spoke to the president of the Historical Society.
And I'm so aware of all these talented people that are wonderful resources that people never tap. And especially, I think, the art groups. But at any rate, what we're trying to do is interface with all the community organizations. So what I'm hoping that we can accomplish here is more of a gathering place.
An Olympic athlete was at a BMX track in Horseheads today to put on a clinic for young riders. Big Fox's Josh Feldberg was at the track.
Southern Tier BMX riders got the chance to learn from an Olympian today. Nick Long, a two-time Olympic athlete in 2012 and 2016, and Riley House, 2020's BMX Pro Rookie of the Year, held a clinic at Horseheads BMX today. Long started these clinics to help share his passion for BMX.
And I just want to share that, I came from a small town myself in Southern California. My track's not near as cool as the one we got here. But you guys, I say it in my clinics and it sounds a little cheesy or cliche, but the kids work hard enough and dream big enough. There's no reason they can't accomplish everything that I have.
I'm at the finish line of the Horseheads BMX track where kids of all ages ride the rollers and bumps. There are races here every Saturday at noon. The Horseheads BMX track has riders as young as 2 and as old as 75 race through the course. The track has grown many standout performers that have had success on the national level. The track is also top 20 in the nation for average race participants at 140 riders. This year, Horseheads BMX will host the New York State Championships in September. Long no longer competes at the highest professional level. Instead, he competes in veteran races, which allows him more time to provide these clinics. This year, Long has 80 clinics planned across the country.
Like if I could touch one rider like that at every track I do at the 80 plus clinics I've set up for this year, that's huge. That's growing the sport, and that's making me feel like I did my part in continuing on and growing the sport.
If you want to try it for yourself, the Horseheads BMX track holds practices on Wednesdays from 5 to 8 p.m. Josh Feldberg, Big Fox News, Horseheads.
More NYPD officers are calling it quits, and fewer new people are signing up for the job. Teresa Priolo has more on what it means for the city's public safety.
The search is on for the next generation of New York's finest, now that veteran cops are resigning or retiring en masse. 100 detectives retired in June alone. Another 75 are expected to turn in their badges in July. Paul DiGiacomo is president of the Detectives Endowment Association.
It's very disturbing. When you're losing this amount of detectives, it's going to be a drastic effect on public safety.
Not just detectives. It's NYPD members of every rank. In 2020, 553 cops resigned, 2,599 retired. In 2021, 1,053 resigned, 1,654 retired. And for the first half of 2022, 497 have resigned already, 594 have retired. Michael Alcazar is a retired NYPD detective who spent 39 years on the job.
My friends are showing up to jobs, responding to a job to handle an assignment, and they're getting flack from the community. The community, what they feel like the community doesn't appreciate them, doesn't want them there, and they can't do their job.
There can be no denying a marked shift in sentiment toward uniformed officers throughout the pandemic. But then there's bail reform and a change in the way the DAs are handling cases. Detective Alcazar points out the officers up for retirement are also a part of a very large class.
When older guys are like my age, staying till like 30, and then they're throwing them back on patrol, it's probably not good for your health for most guys. We can't handle patrol. We're old men in our 50s. We can't go back on patrol. So age absolutely comes into the formula.
The problem is not only are officers retiring, new prospects aren't signing up in equal numbers.
I have students that are aspiring to be police officers. They were supposed to go in this last April class. They turned it down.
The FDA and Juul have agreed to suspend their court fight over the company's e-cigarettes. The Food and Drug Administration says Juul's application to sell e-cigarettes warranted additional review. The FDA requires companies that sell e-cigarettes to prove that people who use their products are likely to quit or reduce their smoking. And they must also prove that teenagers are not likely to get addicted to the product. The decision to suspend the court fight means Juul can resume selling its e-cigarettes in the U.S. Target's back-to-school shopping deals are going on now with special discounts for college students and teachers. They can get some hefty discounts as they prepare for fall classes. College students will get a one-time 20% discount until September 3rd. Teachers can take part in a teacher prep event from July 17th through September 10th and can get 15% off supplies. Others can benefit through sales tax holidays. And Target will host its Deal Days savings event on tech, apparel, and beauty products on its website next week. WNBA star Brittney Griner made her second appearance in a Russian court, but what she told the judge brought her trial to a halt. Still, her wife continues pleading with President Biden to do more to bring her home. Lauren Blanchard has the latest from Washington.
WNBA star American Brittney Griner pleading guilty to drug charges in Moscow Thursday. Griner admitting to the court she did carry vape cartridges with a CBD oil through a Russian airport, saying she did not intentionally break the law. Her next court date is in 1 week. This as her family continues their pressure campaign on the Biden administration to bring her home.
I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that 140 days have passed since my wife has been able to speak to me, to our family, and to her friends. I'm frustrated that my wife is not going to get justice.
President Biden spoke with Griner's wife on Wednesday after she publicly aired her frustration that she had not heard from the president, and after the basketball star sent a handwritten plea for help to the administration. Some have suggested a prisoner swap in exchange for Griner.
This is a priority for this president. I'm not gonna negotiate in public on this.
The U.S. says Griner is being unlawfully detained. She has been in custody since February, 1 week before the start of the war with Ukraine.
We hope that the government and President Biden will step up, and it's not a country that thinks logically like we do.
Griner is facing a possible sentence of 10 years. She has asked the judge for time to prepare testimony. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Your complete forecast is next, plus this.
The United Kingdom is getting a new Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, announcing his resignation on Thursday. I'm Greg Falcon in London. That's my story. Coming up.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Well, good evening and happy Friday Eve. I'm meteorologist Alyssa Triplett, and it was another day under that bright blue sunshine captured earlier today that was able to bring those temperatures well within those 80s, so feeling like a summer-like day. Now, we will be tracking some changes, but for the most part, what we'll see through the overnight is under those calm and cool conditions. There may be some foggy conditions as well, so do keep yourself aware if you are an early morning driver to keep those headlights on, but high beams actually make it more difficult to see, so do keep those off, and then if your car has those those fog lights, those are definitely acceptable. But overall, what we'll continue to bring in is that we do have this northwesterly wind, and that's going to make things stay a little bit cooler into the weekend. Now, it is a weak disturbance that is going to be moving on through into your Friday. And what that is going to bring for is, as you saw, we had some calm conditions, but the extent from the south, there is going to be a weak disturbance that might be able to bring a few maybe sprinkles to some of our more southerly counties. But for the most part, it is going to be a quieter forecast. Through much of the weekend, it is going to stay dry and sunny. Now, the weekend, though, is going to definitely trend on the cooler side compared to what we've previously been able to see here to start off this month. So note the temperature is definitely going to be dialed back, but it's going to make for perfect outdoor conditions to do any activity. Head to the pool, go hiking, anything outdoors, yard work, grilling looks to be perfect for this weekend. Now, showers will return in that forecast, but it looks like it may hold off until middle parts of next week, as early as potentially that Monday into Tuesday forecast. So rolling through the forecast, you can see most of the shower activity is pretty sporadic and light for the most part, but there is some shower extent that at times just hugs that New York and Pennsylvania border. So we'll mention a stray shower too, but again, not expecting any accumulation, more just you'll see that uptick in the cloud cover, maybe some heavier clouds, and then that's going to pull out and we'll see bright sunshine and cool sunshine as we head into that Saturday forecast. So when we trend to see max dew points, it is going to be very comfortable. Saturday 57 to even Monday 59. That is perfect for this time of the year. Now you see an uptick in the dew point on Tuesday, but that's more going to be associated with a chance for some showers and thunderstorms that could be back into our forecast. But as for here's what's in the near future, we have about 84 into Elmira, Wayland just around 80 degrees as we head into that Friday forecast. So even those Finger Lakes able to see some clearing and bring those temperatures back up into those lower 80s for this time of the year, which is average. Now again, as mentioned, it is going to be a little cooler though for the weekend, 79 on Saturday. So not a cold forecast, but cooler than that 84 and cooler than what we've had been previously seeing. But you have that abundant sunshine that is going to continue through much of the day. Now looking into the extended forecast, this extends out all the way to July 20th. You are looking at warmer than average conditions possible. So if you are looking for more of those warmer summer days to maybe head out and do some traveling on the weekends, do some hiking, it looks like it is going to be later into that 7 to 10 day forecast. You're more looking out past 10 days there for that potential, as we will see quiet conditions at least through Monday. Storm chances look to be returning in that 7-day forecast again on Tuesday into Wednesday.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced his resignation Thursday, caving to months of political and public pressure. Greg Palcott has more from London.
I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks.
The United Kingdom will soon have a new leader. Boris Johnson announcing his resignation on Thursday after 3 years as Prime Minister. It's a big reversal for one of the country's most popular politicians. His Conservative Party won a big mandate in 2019, leading the UK through Brexit, COVID, and the war in Ukraine. But he was ultimately forced to cave to months of intense pressure after being advised he lost the support of his own party. He claimed a herd mentality took hold in Parliament.
I've tried to persuade my colleagues that it would be eccentric to change governments when we're delivering so much. I regret not to have been successful.
Johnson's critics said for months he was unfit to lead, calling his ethics into question, including promoting a senior lawmaker who was accused of sexual assault and holding lavish parties that broke COVID lockdown rules. He's now appointed a new cabinet and says he'll stay in office until a new prime minister is elected.
Your interests will be served and the government of the country will be carried on.
But experts say replacing him won't be easy because at the moment there's no clear-cut frontrunner.
Johnson, for all his faults, is also a big, strong, charismatic, humorous, at times very entertaining character. There's nobody obvious like that.
Johnson says the process for picking a new leader will begin immediately, with the timetable announced next week. In London, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
The global hunger crisis continues putting billions of lives at risk. Kevin Corke has a look at the new United Nations report that spells out the consequences the U.S. and the world could face if this problem isn't resolved.
World hunger is dramatically on the rise and poses catastrophic consequences. That's the message from the United Nations, which on Wednesday released a brand new report citing roughly 2.3 billion people faced moderate to severe difficulty in finding enough to eat last year.
Hunger Food security and malnutrition in all its forms are an urgent global concern.
The report identifies COVID-19, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and climate change as the top factors contributing to the ongoing crisis, with UNICEF listing 15 countries most affected by hunger, including Afghanistan, Haiti, Ethiopia, and Kenya.
In the 15 countries most affected by the crisis, UNICEF estimates that 8 million children under the age of 5 are suffering from severe wasting.
In the U.S., data from the USDA shows more than 38 million people, including 12 million children, face food insecurity. Meanwhile, the head of the UN World Food Program says around 50 million people in 45 countries are, quote, one step away from famine, adding inflated costs of food, fuel, and fertilizer exacerbated by the war in Ukraine will trigger
global destabilization, starvation, and mass migration on an unprecedented scale.
The UN Secretary General is trying to draft plans to help Ukraine and Russia resume normal exports of wheat, grain, and fertilizer to the international community amid the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. I'm Kevin Cork, Fox News.
Coming up after the break, a look at how businesses can use UV lights to take the germs out of public spaces. Stay with us. A venue in Boston is turning to technology to help fight viruses, and they're doing it through the use of UV lights. Drew Carides has the story.
I was hoping that we could do something that would bring things back to normal.
If you step inside the Napoleon Room at Club Cafe in Boston, there's a chance you'll catch Harvard Medical School professor Edward Nardell on open mic night. Nardell might be an amateur cabaret singer, but he's an expert at researching ultraviolet light to inactivate airborne viruses like COVID-19.
There's competing technologies that frankly don't have the science behind them.
Nardell says a brand new approach called FAR UVC is proven to be safe and effective, using ultraviolet light to clear the air of floating viruses from the ceiling down to the floor.
There's a study published recently in England where you go from 100% down to less than 10% in minutes.
After persistently advocating to club management, he arranged for the donation and installation of 15 of these UV devices. They're most concentrated in the intimate setting of the Napoleon Room, which seats about 40 people for dinner, drinks, and nightly cabaret performances.
Is actually disinfecting air in and around people, not just in the upper room. I honestly think there's no place safer than with this kind of system in place.
Nardell says the 7 devices installed here in the Napoleon Room at Club Cafe would have cost about $16,000 if it hadn't been for the donations.
I think that other places will get on board, other restaurants particularly.
Big news for Stranger Things fans, and exciting trailers bring first looks at new movies on the way. It's all in today's Hollywood Nation with Ashley Dvorkin.
This is all turning out to be a lot larger than any of us.
Star-filled, action-packed first looks, and the Upside Down expands in the Hollywood Nation.
That guy's right here.
The Duffer Brothers have a new production company, Upside Down Pictures. It's part of their overall deal with Netflix and will produce a slate of film and TV projects, including a live-action Stranger Things spin-off series and a stage play set within that world and mythology. The Duffer Brothers say they aim to create the kind of stories that inspired them, stories that take place at that beautiful crossroads where the ordinary meets the extraordinary.
Train hard, fight harder.
Today's first looks start with Oscar winner Viola Davis leading the action in The Woman King, about the all-female unit of warriors protecting the African kingdom of Dahomey in the 1800s against European invaders. The historical epic is in theaters September 16th.
We need someone to help us.
A trailer for David O. Russell's Amsterdam shows its star-packed cast, including Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, and John David Washington, in a story of 3 friends who find themselves at the center of one of the most shocking secret plots in American history. Amsterdam is in theaters November 4th.
That's how we did it in the 90s, son!
And with their signature comedy, Jay and Silent Bob return in Clerks 3, in theaters September 13th and 15th. Plus, writer-director Kevin Smith is bringing it on the road with his Clerks 3 convenience tour.
Now that's what I call action!
In Hollywood. Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
We'll be back with more news right after this. We want to leave you with a smile. Take the fun you used to have in the bathtub on the go. A man reportedly in his 30s has been making watches that don't tell time but have made waves on TikTok. This is his wearable magnetic toy featuring rubber ducks. The fun and interactive device lets you pick up and move the ducks on your wrist to help pass the time. The inventor came up with this concept as a way to work through childhood trauma. The watches can be found online in different colors and themes. From our whole team, thank you for joining us. I'm Anne Emanuel. We hope you have a great rest of your day.